Well, in our central London studio now is Dr. Karin who's Director General of the Royal United Services Institute and was until recently Chief of Staff to the Special Presidential Envoy for the Global Coalition to counter ISIL. Good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon.
Just listening to the prosecutor within the last hour, there still seems to be a lot of confusion. We still have someone on the run. The two brothers who we thought were in the photograph yesterday, turns out only one of them was. How do you rate the investigation so far?
I think, the reality is it's barely 24 hours in and we know a lot of information about what happened. It always takes some time to understand who did what and piece together so many different threads. And so I'm not one who's going to complain about how the Brussels police are doing or the Belgian security forces. I think any security forces would be challenged by this type of investigation and this type of attack.
A question that was being asked yesterday and asked again today is why now? What do you read into the speed after the arrest of a main suspect in the Paris attacks, the speed with which this attack was carried out yesterday?
I actually wouldn't put too much weight in connecting the two events. I think what's more important is what many people have been anticipating for over a year, that as our coalition forces squeeze ISIL in Raqqa in Syria and in Mosul in Iraq, and that's happening on the ground, as our coalition forces squeezing them militarily at the core, that they will lash out at the periphery, and most people expected that to happen in Europe. So I'm afraid we may see more of this in the coming year or so as we try to really defeat them militarily. I think once they're defeated militarily in Syria and Iraq, and assuming they're not able to decamp to Libya or somewhere else, then the appeal of ISIL, I think, will diminish. The appeal is largely based on what is the perception that this is a very successful terrorist group, that they have a caliphate, and that they have this, this alternative utopia that you can come and join. And once that's shown to be, completely false, I think that appeal will be reduced significantly.
And until they're dealt with at source, if you like, the emphasis in European cities is going to be on prevention, on vigilance. What more could be done? Hindsight is a wonderful thing, but in terms of a total police state, which everybody says they want to avoid, where's the compromise?
I think what will have to happen is greater partnerships for sure between European intelligence, security forces, police forces, etc. Much greater sharing across the Atlantic with the United States, with the Canadians, with the Australians and others. So definitely much more coordination and information sharing. And then probably greater partnerships to the public, because communities will need to do more to police their own communities, their own spaces, and especially in areas where maybe like parts of Brussels, where some of these guys are hanging around, where maybe there are fewer police forces or security forces. The community needs to do more and step up and do more. And I think greater outreach by police, greater community policing, those kinds of activities will really help.
Karin von Hippel from